Welcome back. This is Dr. Oscar Hernandez, board certified internist and pediatrician. Today we're doing a continuation of a previous segment that we did on the commonly asked questions that I get in the office, and we're trying to hit the 5 top ones. So we talked briefly last time about the importance and the availability and the differentiation of rapid testing that can be done in the office, maybe in the future by anybody at home, for coronavirus, and how that differed from FDA approvals and so on. So there's some structural issues to that. We discussed that on the last video. Today I'm going to talk about another common question that I get from my patients, and here it is. We've talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it again, and it has to do with the N95 mask. Very recently, there's been some buzz that the White House Task Force and other institutions are going to recommend that everybody be wearing masks when they go outside. And that may provide people a somewhat false sense of relief, because they say, well, if I'm wearing a mask, I can't get this. That's not really true. It depends on the mask that you're wearing. So if you're wearing a plain old surgical mask, the type of thing that you see surgeons wear, they have holes kind of on the side. They don't fit very cleanly and snugly on the face, and you can breathe in somebody else's virus because of those specific gaps. The N95 mask is a little different. I have one with me. I'm going to show it to you again, and I'm going to show how I recommend that that mask be cleaned. This is very important because that's one of those top questions that people are asking me. But with regard to this recommendation that may come out that everybody should have a face covering, that's good to protect other people. It depends, of course, on the mask you're wearing, but if you're wearing a plain old surgical mask, that's good to protect other people. And sometimes people say, well, I'll just wear a scarf or a bandana. That is also useful to protect other people, but it's not so useful to protect you, because those particular fibers, if you look at them under a macroscope or a microscope, they have a lot of gaps between the threads, and that virus, whoop, it'll just slip right in there. It's almost like there is no wall. So why would a bandana be useful to certain people? Well, because if you're coughing or sneezing and putting out actual mucus or spray and saliva, that barrier will help catch that, and it will help protect other people who might be in your nearby proximity. Of course, here's the proviso. You are at home. You're staying in. You're obeying the recommendations. You're not going out. You're maintaining 6-foot distance, aren't you? Well, if you do, then all of those things become not so important. But hey, we do have to go out to put gas in the tank and get some food and so on. So I got it. And then there are people like me and my staff. We have to travel every day back and forth to the office, and we may have some exposure to people. All right. So the important thing is that some of those recommendations that may be coming out, you take them with a grain of salt. If you want to do it, that's fine. Make sure it doesn't give you a false sense of security. Now, this bag holds the mystical, magical, and much sought after N95 mask. Why is it in a brown paper bag? Well, because I reuse this mask. I don't have that many of them for me, for my staff, so we reuse them. And one of the recommendations when you finish taking off this mask is that you put it into a bag until it's reused later. First of all, because if the mask should be shedding virus, it is less of a problem to other people. If it's shedding virus, I'm in trouble because I put this thing on my face anyway. So every day, what I recommend is that we do the following. So when you take out your mask, this is an N95 mask. When you take out your mask, you have to make sure that the integrity of the mask is still good. Do these things work? Do these elastic strings have proper tension to them? Will they make the mask fit snugly to your face? Is it pulling out and tearing off? When you start using the mask, did you put your date on it? Did you put your name on it so somebody else, your kid or another coworker says, oh, that's my mask, I'm going to use it? Don't do that. Put your initials on it. Mine has initials. It may not be very clear to the camera, and it has a date. Why does it have a date? Because in my office, we try to change these masks every 2 weeks. In the old days, sometime in 2019, that's the old days now, these were single-use masks. You used them, you came out of a patient room or away from the patient, you threw it in the trash. We don't have that luxury right now. However, we do have a secret weapon. It's in my pocket. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little Lysol can, right? It's a spray can for Lysol. So before I put this mask at the end of the day in my little brown bag, I take a little Lysol And there's nothing that says that this works or is useful. This is what I do. I think it's a good recommendation. So, some other videos, you watch them on the web, and there's all kinds of recommendations, and people speak as if they were speaking from the throne of truth. When I say something that is something that I do, but there's no science behind it, it may be good thinking, it may be a good habit, but I can't tell you that we have a double-blind randomized study that says that we should do this. I clearly tell you. So, you take your Lysol thing, or whatever disinfectant you want to use that is approved by the CDC for this. I'm putting the brand out there. Listen, I don't get paid by anybody. So I'm not endorsing Lysol. We had a Corona check test that we showed last time, which is one of the rapid tests. I don't get paid by anybody. These are just things that I do in my office. So this is all genuine, this is all true. You take it in your right hand, you hold your mask in your left, or you can use the other hand if you want, and you spray. Why do I do this before I put the mask into the bag? Well, because I don't want to take this mask now, it's all full of wet Lysol and the fumes are killing me, and put it on my face. So I do this at the end of the day, and I put it in the bag. And by the way, if you have enough of this type of stuff, and it doesn't have to be the small tube, anything will do, spray a couple of these things into the bag too. And this is one of the approved disinfectants for surfaces from the CDC. So you put your mask in there, bang, you're in. By the way, when you examine your mask, make sure it doesn't have splatter or holes, or that it's just plain old wearing out, because then it's not going to help you. NIOSH is the government agency that helps determine when these masks and how long these masks can be used. And we're in new territory. In terms of using them over and over, there are two ways of thinking about this. First, there is reuse. That means that you take the mask out of your bag every day, you take it, you put it on. And then there's something called continuous use. Again, in the old days, there was no continuous use. You finished with a patient or in an exposure situation, you took it out, you threw it off. Now, we may have to have our mask, especially in a hospital environment, or even in my office, being used for hours and hours and hours. This is continuous use. So there's two ways of looking at this, continuous use and reuse. We're unfortunately doing both at this time. But hey, take a little Lysol, put it in. You don't have to put the Lysol on the outside. You got enough, you want to do that, that's fine. If somebody has actually splattered bodily fluids on this mask, they sneezed from the outside into the mask, they coughed, you're in a hospital environment where you're exposed to liquids and fluids coming out of patients, this mask is not going to be reused. It's not going to have continuous use. It's not going to get Lysoled. It's going to go in the trash, in a biohazard container in the proper place to dispose of. All right. So this is what I do with a mask. I have seen programs on the web that talk about putting these things into a microwave. I've seen programs about putting them out in the sun because it gets ultraviolet lights and you can clean things with ultraviolet lights. I've heard about putting Clorox on them. Do not put Clorox on them. It disintegrates the mask. I have absolutely no information that is reliable and trustworthy about putting these things into a microwave or heating them or putting into steam. I do have reliable information that says that this type of product and others like it are useful for wiping down surfaces. So before I go, I have one more thing I want to say. This is question number 3 that I get from my patients. We're trying to review the top 5 questions in these videos. Is there treatment? The answer is yes and no. Now, why is there treatment? Well, because we have small studies, specifically one that comes out of Marseille, France, that talks about a group of 20 patients. Now, this is not a huge study, but it talks about a group of 20 patients who were treated with Plaquenil and azithromycin, and all of them significantly decreased their viral shed. That means that the amount of virus that was picked up on polymerase chain reaction testing through nasal swabbing went down to 0 or almost undetectable in all of the patients. That would be a great home run hit if that is something that we can do over and over in patients. Now, here's the thing. In science, we like reproducibility. We like things to be reproducible, and not just from one author, but from multiple sources that can confirm the results and reports of one particular researcher. So we are fighting a battle against time, but I can tell you that in the registry that the government keeps for research studies, there's over 200 research studies going on. The one that I like to talk about, especially in brief videos like this one, we can get into antiviral therapy and so on, but the one that I think has the best data to this day is this combination of two medicines, an antibiotic, azithromycin, and Plaquenil, which is a different type of medicine that we used in the old days. Again, the old days was last year, in patients who had certain types of skin conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, and other connective tissue diseases. Now, why do I say that it's a yes and no thing? Yes, because I truly believe that this is useful treatment. No, because I can't get the product, right? So I can write a prescription for Plaquenil to a patient. Good luck if they can find it. It may take 7 days, 8 days to get the product from the pharmacy, and by that time the patient is either very sick and in the hospital, or they actually got better on their own. And again, most people do get better on their own. Remember, folks, we are in a war. This is a war situation, and a lot of people have made that analogy. Behind me is the fireplace to my home, and the reason I do so is because it reminds me of Franklin Roosevelt's fireside chats during World War II, where people would gather around the radio and hear information about how the war was going and how the war effort was progressing. Again, you can't see the fireplace now. I moved the chair a little bit, but in a previous video you can see the fireplace. The point is, guess where I'm at? I'm at home. Well, why? Because they're stay-at-home recommendations, and I'm trying to model that in my videos. Now, some of the other videos you see come from the bunker. I call the office the bunker, right? That's where we're doing the hand-to-hand, day-to-day stuff against this virus. We should really call it the trench, not the bunker. The bunker makes it sound more fortified, but the trench is really where you have the hand-to-hand stuff. It's reminiscent of World War I. All right, so anyway, that's all we have for today. We're going to be coming back with more of the top questions that my patients ask me on the next video, and we're going to talk about how to bring food into your house. I have seen some videos that are already on the web about this. I'm not too cool with them. I'm going to give you my own ideas. Remember, my own ideas. This has to do with the fact that we don't have studies about how to bring food into the house. By the way, you don't have to bring anything into your house if you're already at home and you're not on the street. Why do I pick food? Because we got to go out and get it, right? We're not going to starve. We can't do that. Even the food that is brought to your house, maybe by a delivery service, could have coronavirus on the packaging. Are these high-risk situations? They're not high-risk situations. This virus doesn't live forever on surfaces. It actually dies very easily, especially if you're using, to paraphrase an old movie, My Little Friend. Except this one doesn't fire bullets, this one fires disinfectant. So, this is My Little Friend. All right, so we're going to come back next week. We'll talk a little bit more. If you liked our videos, give us a thumbs up. We're on Facebook, and you can also find us on Instagram. And we have more information on the Instagram about lifestyle issues and stuff, which is really what I generally like to talk about. But we're in the middle of this, so we're not going to talk about fruit salad. We're going to talk about coronavirus. And please, subscribe, because that's the best way you can keep getting this type of information. We'll see you again soon.